It's time for another episode of Sit Down with the Supt. In this episode, what the rest of the school year will look like for in-person instruction, plus the plans to bring our seniors back to McKenzie Stadium for in-person, socially distant graduation ceremonies. And great news for taxpayers, how savings in the Envision Evergreen Facilities Bond will allow us to rebuild another aging school. And now your host, Craig Bernbach, and Superintendent Mike Merlino.
Hello and welcome to Sit Down with the Supt. I'm Craig Bernbach, the Communications Manager here at Evergreen Public Schools, and your host for this conversation with Superintendent Mike Merlino. Our goal here is to give students, staff, and families updates on the many exciting things going on in our schools, and to give Mike a chance to let you know how and why decisions are being made. Of course, the last year or so has been filled with changes and updates as we've continued to welcome more and more students back into our schools for in-person learning. Unfortunately, we're still navigating through a pandemic. The good news is we're slowly returning to normal, and here at the district we have some exciting announcements regarding graduation and even a brand new school. And with that, I want to welcome in the Superintendent of Evergreen Public Schools, Mike Merlino. Mike, as always, thank you so much for taking this time. And Mike, let's start with the schedule for families and students the rest of the year. I know we just recently announced that we're going to be sticking with the hybrid schedule for the rest of this school year. Can you let people know how that decision came about?
Yeah, we had before spring break, we were notified that there had been a change in guidance from the CDC. The 6-foot rule that has for the whole year governed the social distancing requirements was relaxed to 3 feet. We weren't sure initially how the governor was going to, how he was going to apply that, if he was going to apply it, but we did learn before spring break that he did. The State Department of Health and the governor move forward with guidance to allow districts to follow the CDC's new guidelines. Initially when we looked at it, we thought, this is great. This is really good news. As you read a little deeper into it, you realized that there were still certain things that they didn't relax, like when students have their masks off when they're eating, when they're in a music classroom, PE, various different things that they have. They didn't change the requirement from the 6 feet. And at the same time, adults at all time needed to maintain the 6 feet distancing from their students. So when you looked at that, and when you think about how we, particularly how we feed kids, the space requirements were pretty significant. So we worked with our principals on that. We got feedback from them. We worked with our labor partners on that. We looked at the schedules adjustments that would need to be required. We looked at the requirements around the space distancing, and had to actually also consider, you mentioned it kind of in your question, all of the changes that have occurred. It has been a difficult year. Obviously, it's been a difficult year for our kids, for our families, for our staff, but the sheer amount of changes creates a lot of anxiety, I think, for students, families, and for staff. So after conversations we had internally, we ended up making the decision to just remain in the hybrid where we've been since January. And then it's a significant planning undertaking, and so to go through the planning and the changes at the end of the year for a limited number of weeks, we really wanted to focus more of that planning and work as we think about coming back in the fall.
Yeah, a lot of discussions. I know not an easy decision, but
not an easy decision at all.
But at least now families can understand where the schedules will be from now until June 16th. And but while we're not making major schedule changes for students as a whole, bringing in kids that are struggling in remote learning, I know, is a priority, and that you have a system in place to kind of target some of these struggling students and bring them in for more in-person learning. Can you explain, how that system's going to work and how parents and students will be engaged by staff?
Right. So we last summer, as we were planning for this past fall, we had put in place the a team at each school, a student engagement team, where we would have a group of folks at the building that would include counselors, teachers, administrators, that would kind of assess things like attendance, grades throughout the year, and kind of identify students that may be more at risk in the current scenario. And then we brought those kids in as early as the fall. We started with kindergarten pretty early, but we had identified kids, K-12, that the student engagement teams identified as potential kids that were struggling. So as we think about the rest of the year, we're re-engaging with that team so that we can identify kids and have those folks in the buildings make recommendations for students that could benefit from more time. And so we do expect, even though we remain in the schedule, that we will be bringing in, I think, probably a pretty significant number of kids to go to a 4-day-a-week. But they'll kind of be worked at each building. The buildings would reach out. I know that parents are also reaching out to their schools in working through that process. So we are of a belief that we will be able to bring in more kids between now and the end of the year, but it's just not going to be on a set. Everybody's going 4 days, or everybody's going 5 days, or anything like that.
A more strategic look at what's going on to make sure that you engage with the kids who need it the most right now.
Yeah, I think just thinking about the lift of doing what we were going to need to do the rest of the year, and understanding that I've said it all year long, we don't exist if kids aren't in school. And so I absolutely understand that our main priority is to get kids in and support kids. In this instance, what we're doing is identifying who we believe are the most at risk, give parents the ability to make recommendations. I think my student might be one of the more at-risk students. And then work with the building to do everything we can to make sure that we get as many kids in beyond the 2 days a week that they are right now.
And once regular school ends in June, we know that there's been some learning loss, but you're looking at ways that we can kind of attack that in the summer, correct? Like, are we looking at a different kind of summer than usual here at Evergreen Public Schools? So
since we came back after Christmas, we've been talking about, even in the fall, what are we going to do to help with our students over the summer? Because typically we do have a few summer school programs, extended school year for some of our special needs students. We have some tutoring and summer school for our English language learner students that come in over the summer, but we don't typically have a real robust summer program. So we've been working over the winter and the spring to create that. I think early May, there will be information coming out to all of our families about that. But basically what we're looking at is a 2-week half-day program that would be available to our students K-12. There'd be an elementary themed program, there'd be a middle school themed program, and a high school themed program that would take place the week after school gets out. So 2 weeks, half days in June, K-12, and then another 2-week session in August as kids are coming back and leading into the school year. So that is not something that we have done typically. They're still in a little bit of the final planning stages, but there will be academic work, there'll be some social emotional work, and there'll be just some activities for kids too, and getting kids back into our school. So I would look for that information to come out in early May around the opportunities that we have for families this summer.
Mike, of course, we've been talking so much about this school year, but people are starting to wonder and think about the fall. What do you expect for our schools, families, staff, and students in the fall?
Obviously, we don't have the ability to predict the future with respect to how COVID may evolve. But I would think that the conditions that we're facing now, there's a possibility they'll be similar in the fall, or it should hopefully be better than that. So part of the decision also was, we're spending a lot of time working in a short period of time to bring kids back for a short period of time. In our view, it was very important that we spend maybe a little more time getting the planning done right, building the schedules, thinking about furniture, thinking about spacing, thinking about the safety guidelines, and then doing all that work for a target in the fall where we come back in whatever the normal is at that time. My belief is we come back in the fall 5 days a week. So I think if the guidelines are existing at the present time, that we will be able to spend this time planning so that we come back in the fall 5 days a week. And again, I can't predict if there's some other very strange thing or a COVID-20 or some other pandemic that occurs. But if we're facing the guidelines that we're facing now, I would expect us to be back 5 days a week full in the fall.
Well, I know that's what we all want, and we hope that it keeps going in that way. This year, we are talking about in-person graduation for high school kids, which we weren't able to do last year. We did drive-ins, which were, was something, but I know that parents and especially students, they were hoping for in-person graduations. Can you give people an update on where we are with that?
Yeah, the governor recently came out with talk about changes. There have been a number of phased programs that have come out from the state, and the most recent impact on our schools was that Clark County moved to phase 3, looking at hospitalization rates, looking at the cases per 100,000. We moved to phase 3. When we did that, it allowed for increased capacity at indoor and outdoor stadiums. So we have always had our graduation, at least as long as I've been associated with the district, at McKenzie Stadium. So it's an outdoor venue, which is a good thing. If we remain in phase 3, we fully expect to have it won't be a graduation that you would typically think of, but we will have graduation at McKenzie Stadium. Our students will be there. We will figure out the safety requirements, the social distancing of the students, but that would then allow for some of our families to be allowed into the stadium and actually observe. There likely would be a limited number of tickets per student to be made available. But like you said, last summer was very difficult, and this would allow us for something more normal as we get to whatever the future normal is. The only thing I would say is if there's any kind of changes in cases and we were to drop back into phase 2, which I don't know that right now the trends look like that, and we meet every week with Dr. Melnick, but I don't predict the future.
Right, and it is trending up. We needed to trend
trending
down,
up,
so
but it's kind of plateaued a little bit. The only thing would be we would still have a graduation for our kids, but it might limit the number of folks that could attend and participate in person. We obviously stream this event every year anyway, so we'll have the streaming capability for anybody that wants to stream in, but we're very hopeful that we remain in phase 3, and that will allow for families to participate in person.
Right, no matter what, the kids at least will have the opportunity to be in McKenzie Stadium. We're lucky to have such a large stadium, right here where we can fit the students in there.
I agree with that, and I think we're also lucky to have the tradition of having graduation outside. Not every district has that. You have some that have them in school gyms, and that can be, indoors is different than outdoors, and the size is also a problem. So I think we're in pretty good. We definitely will have graduation for the kids. The only question will be how many spectators will be there.
And we want sun.
We
would like sun.
Well, so. we want more than some.
No, sun. I mean, no rain.
Oh, sun.
Yes.
I said sun. Yeah, we want sun. I agree with that. Yeah, we'll do our best to mitigate the rain. I don't know that we can do anything about that, but we'll work.
Make all the right calls. And,
yeah.
Another very positive thing is that at the most recent board meeting, you and other board members got to announce that the Envision Evergreen bond initiatives, thanks to the voters, that money is going to go further than expected. We're talking about additional projects, including a brand new elementary school, Mill Plain going to get a new elementary school, but other additions as well. Can you explain how that worked out? I mean, that had to be something that was fun to work on and to announce.
Yeah, I think this is a significant tribute, I think, to the management of the project by folks like Sue Steinbrenner, our Executive Director of Facilities. We work with a project management team that has been very instrumental, RC management as well. But I think a lot of it goes all the way back to the planning stages. When we ran the bond in 2018, there was kind of pretty significant cost escalation that was occurring in the at least in the Portland, Vancouver area. And so we had to kind of, if we're saying we're going to do these projects, it's very important for us to be able to, if we say we're going to do it, to be able to make that happen. And so, you know, we had to build in some estimates in terms of cost escalation. And then really what we've seen is we've accelerated some projects. So the earlier we do the projects, we're able to bid these projects and get lower prices. And we honestly hit it just, you couldn't have hit it any better in terms of the timing where the costs had been escalating, they started to flatten out, and then they've decreased a little bit in COVID because there's been a little more competition. Some of the projects were restricted, private projects, but the public projects were allowed, which has allowed our bids. I mean, for example, we have 6 new elementaries before Mill Plain. The bid that we had on our first elementary rebuild, which was Sifton, has been the highest bid project. Everyone since then has gone down in price. That, along with just overall management of the projects and interest rates that have continued to be low, has allowed us to squeeze some savings out on the project, and then gave us the opportunity to look at some additional projects. And Mill Plain was one that was just kind of on the edge of being part of the last bond. And so that was the first one that we looked at to make that happen. So I do know that the board passed a resolution last night authorizing us to move forward with Mill Plain. We shared that with the community. We're excited to start that project immediately. I think in the age of a lot of people look at government spending and they look at management of projects. There's always cost overruns and delays. We actually have some underruns, and we've accelerated projects. So I feel like we should be real proud of that and appreciative of the work that all of our staff have put into making that happen.
And the Mill Plain Elementary School, not the only project. I want to show some of the other projects that are going to be done thanks to the money going further than expected. Also going to modernize spaces at a new college career and technical education programs at Evergreen High School. So that's a brand new kind of expansion of the CTE program, which is exciting. Capital improvements to enhance music programs at Evergreen and Union High School, and the district transportation facility is either going to be replaced or modernized, which of course will help so many students throughout the district. So very exciting news. And Mike, thank you so much for those updates. And I know you know the mayor of our fine city of Vancouver, Anne McInerney Ogle, but did you know that she recently invested some of her own money in some of our 2nd and 3rd grade students? You didn't know that, did you? But you're about to find out. And after you watch this story, Mike, I think that you're going to agree that the mayor invested her money very wisely. When you look across the street from Evergreen High School, you might see just a vacant lot.
Hi, my name is Montgomery Lloyd.
But these 2nd and 3rd graders,
My name is Avery.
they see possibilities.
There are not enough food trucks in Vancouver, Washington. By building a large food truck lot, it could solve the problem. So my idea is a combined art and science center.
My food donation center and orchard will allow people to donate and receive food for free.
These students are part of Evergreen Public Schools' Excel program, and the Vacant Lot Project challenged them to come up with an idea for how to use this vacant lot.
And kind of use it as a lens to look at their own community and see what they would want to change or what they think is missing or what they would like to improve.
Then they needed to record a video and pitch that idea.
I propose building a homeless shelter for all ages, genders, and races.
I propose building an animal shelter to help the animals in need.
I propose building a place where kids can have free internet and power.
The students also had to put together 3D designs, and boy, were they creative.
It was fun to see a lot of the details. Lots of unique furniture that was built, right? Using recycled materials. I think that's the best part too. It's all junk that's laying around the house.
This wasn't the first year that the Excel program has done this project, but this year students got a little something special. as the teachers reached out to the mayor of the city of Vancouver, who got right back to them with an idea of her own.
And so I thought I would do something a little different in thanking you. I want to invest in you. In the next few days, you're going to be receiving a letter from me in the mail. And inside that letter, for each one of you, is a $5 bill. What I would like for you to do is to find a way to use that money to make a positive change in our community.
The mayor's message and $5 challenge did more than just honor the kids. It was recognition to the students that they can make a difference now and in the future.
And I think Anne was like another coach in their life, saying, I'm here to cheer you on. You're doing the work, and your teachers and I are here to say, we're proud of you, and keep it up.
Thank you. Bye.
Mike, it was so much fun to hear these students' ideas, and they were really good ideas.
Great ideas. Yeah, I agree with you.
And having the mayor jump in, I know that you've been around, here and with her, know her for a while. It's great to have her involved.
She's a wonderful person, and that's fantastic that she stepped in to support our kids and what they're doing through the program.
Yeah, I think eventually one of these second and third graders might be the mayor of Vancouver in the future.
I think you're probably right.
That's what it's all about. Well, Mike, as always, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and these updates, and we want to keep you updated. So please follow us on social media. Here's where you can find us.
On Facebook, you'll find us at facebook.com/evergreenps. On Instagram, it's evergreen_public_schools. On Twitter, follow us at twitter.com/evergreenps. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/evergreen school district. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And on LinkedIn, you'll find us at linkedin.com/school/evergreenps.